Hi, everyone. I'm Gary Summers, and welcome to the audio edition of Mind, Body, and Soul, a show about your mental, physical, and spiritual wellness. I have an interesting guest with us today who's going to talk about dreaming, who's going to talk about visualizing, who's going to talk about how you can create the world, the life that you want to. And as humans, we have a very special gift that only us humans possess, and that's the ability to visualize and the ability to dream and to visualize and see things as how we'd like them to be. So I'd like to welcome my special guest, Alison Normore, all the way from the Northern Peninsula. Welcome, Alison.
Thank you, Gary. It's a pleasure to be here.
So I guess just can you give our listeners like a brief introduction of what you do and maybe give them a quick summary as to what we're going to talk about today?
Okay, well, first of all, I'm a Newfoundlander who came back home, and I've lived many lives, and which brought me into secretary. I was a truck driver. I eventually went to university and got into academia, and I was a researcher, teacher. Eventually left that to become a play therapist for 10 years, and then found what I was looking for all those years, which was a real fit in terms of how I saw the world and how I belonged in the world. And I just, had to share that with other people. I was called back home, and I tell that story in my book, Return to Pangea. And to be here to, serve in the way that I can. So that's why I'm here, and I love sharing what I've learned on my journey, and helping other people live, happier, more fulfilling lives.
And that's what this is all about. And as people listen to you, and I encourage people, if you're on the Mind, Body, Soul group, to go back and listen to all the interviews that are there. And if you're on the project website, certainly go through, and there's a wealth of information. I've been around a long time, and every day I meet people who have something very special to offer. So let's get into this, Alison. So you say you're a dreamer, and I guess a lot of people will say, well, geez, everybody dreams. So why is it important?
Well, yes, we are all dreamers, and yet for many of us, probably with very few exceptions, our capacity and power to connect with something much greater than ourselves through dreams, and I'm talking here about nighttime dreams, when we get very important messages that come from that something greater, however you understand that to be, God, the divine, your soul, whatever. There is a much bigger world, and so nighttime dreams and working with those is one way to access that greater power, that greater intelligence that brought you here, but also to be aware of how we're dreaming, all like the life that you have, the life I have, the world we live in is a product of our collective dreaming. And so yeah.
No, go ahead, continue.
Yeah, so I was going to say, so if we don't like what we see and what we've created in our lives, then we have the option to redo it, to create again.
And that's the thing that I think many people don't realize, is that we do have a choice. Beliefs are choices. So you're talking about two things now. You're talking about the nighttime dream when you go to sleep and you have these dreams, and you're also talking about your daytime where you were dreaming consciously.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So and both are really, really important. So I guess there's been a lot of books written about dreams and the interpretation of dreams, and I think two people could dream the same dream, but it means something totally different to each person. The best explanation I had of it was dreaming is your subconscious mind's way of helping you figure life out. And that to me was really poignant. And once if people, you have a conscious and a subconscious mind, and your conscious mind is very limited. It only understands or you can only remember 5 or 6 things, but your subconscious mind is limitless. It contains all your feelings, your emotions, everything that you've experienced in your entire life is locked up in a little computer up in your head called your subconscious mind. Now, you can't see it, but it's there. It's basically your autopilot. It's your habits. It's what you've programmed yourself every single day to do. Now, some of that programming can help you in life. Some of that programming can hinder you in life. And that's what, when you're saying, if you're dreaming and you don't like what you're dreaming, change it, because there is a term called neuroplasticity. And we do have the ability to change the outcome simply by changing what we input into that.
Yeah, yeah. And I love that explanation, Gary, and I completely agree with it. I would go a little bit further than that to speak to my experience, which was that when I opened up to the messages coming through, I realized I was connected in with something even bigger than me, that there was a greater intelligence that was guiding my life. And so as opposed to, and I'm sure you understand this as well, that I would say that there's, like it's called by many different names, but like a super consciousness or, subconscious, but there's a part of us that's connected to the divine. However you understand that, is so much bigger than each of us individually, and connects us all, and connects us back to the earth, to the living spirit of the earth, and to, beyond.
And I think some people might understand it as intuition, as we get a thought, and when you get a thought of an idea to do something, that's your subconscious mind's way of saying, this is something that's going to really help you. But the problem happens is we don't trust ourselves, because that's your conscious mind, that's your ego saying, well, what about if you're not smart enough? What are people going to say? What about if you can't do this? What about if you fail? But when you listen, when you go inside and listen to your intuition, that's your deepest force telling you, you can handle this. This is your path. This is what you need to take. But when you don't trust yourself, you ask 10 people and you'll get 10 different answers. Oh, I don't think you should do that. Or, oh, if I were you, this is what I would do. Instead of just acting and just going with what your inner self, your true self, knows what's true and knows what will guide you in the right direction, whatever you want to call it.
Yes, I love that. Gary. Yes, so we call it intuition. And I think there's, even another layer of knowing that we have become very disconnected from because of our culture, our conditioning, our personal karma, past lives, family, ancestral, issues that we carry forward. There are many ways why we can't access that deeper wisdom. We've been disconnected from it. But there's, that body wisdom, that instinctual wisdom, that gut, you say, you follow your gut, right? And instead, as Westerners, we've been conditioned and educated, socialized to be in our minds, that we can figure everything out through the mind. And as you said, our mind is very limited in its capacity. It can perhaps hold 5 things, you said. I think there's research about that. So tapping into those deeper ways of being that are our birthright. It's our natural way of being. It's been so hidden, suppressed, for lots of good reasons. But I think this is, our way forward into this new age of Aquarius, is to begin to tap in, to clear that old programming, to clear the old trauma, the old stories of limitation. Like as you said, oh, I can't do that. What would people think? I mean, I was there. That was my journey. I was so afraid of everything, so afraid of what people thought when I started studying, shamanism. It's like, oh my goodness, what I was afraid to tell people. And I for a long time, that took a long time for me to just start peeling away the layers of it, right? It's like peeling the onion, peeling back the layers. So that's what I think. And once we get free again, once we're truly free, I don't even think we can remember what it's like to be free. Well, because so many lifetimes we haven't been. We've been bound and suppressed, and you know. So I think this is a time of great blossoming, great spiritual awakening on the earth, and each of us has our own journey to take.
It reminds me of the story of the bumblebee. You know, they studied the bumblebee, and they said aerodynamically the body is too short, the wings are too short, it's too stumpy. You know, it just can't fly. It shouldn't be able to fly. And then someone said to the guy up there talking about this, and someone said, well, why can the bee fly? He said, because no one told it it couldn't.
I love that. That's true. You know,
we were born with two fears, and only two fears: the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. That's it. Everything else is acquired. Either you did something that you thought was stupid, or someone told you that you weren't smart enough, and you that became a belief. And if you believe something, you will search for evidence to prove yourself right. Nobody gets up in the morning and says, you know something, I think today I'm going to prove myself wrong. Nobody does that. So we search for evidence, and when we find evidence, we'll say, see, I told you I was right. So now it's time for people to start rewriting the slate in their mind. So Alison, what brought you to this point, and to do this kind of work that you do?
Well, as I said before, I was on my own journey of, you know, always looking for truth. I had some inner drive that I was just always there, a natural curiosity to learn about the world, but also fascinated with ancient cultures and indigenous kind of wisdom. You know, I just wanted to learn everything that I could about it. But what was driving me underneath all of that is I never really felt like I fit anywhere. I never felt like I was at home. I felt like an oddball. Wherever I went, whatever, you know, even when I got in university, I used to, I loved the learning, and I could do it, but I never felt like I belonged. And eventually I came to realize, when I got into actually shamanism, indigenous spiritual traditions and methods, that I felt like I'd come home. Like learning about the consciousness of the whole world, how everything is conscious, which is at the essence, the core of shamanism, is that everything is conscious. So that trees have a consciousness, not the same as human consciousness, but they can communicate with us. And science now is starting to provide evidence of this. There's whole new fields opening up. You know, animals, of course, most of us might recognize that, you know, animals have consciousness, that they have feelings. I mean, again, this is a whole field of science that's blossoming about the consciousness of other animals. But even, you know, the wind is conscious. And so the natural world around us is always communicating with us, giving us messages. It wants us to thrive on this earth, to return to, you know, you can think of the Garden of Eden, right? To come back to the garden and realize that we are so loved and so supported by all of the natural world. And I refer to this as, you know, the living spirit of the earth, you know, Gaia, Sophia, Mother Earth, whatever you want to call her, known by many names, but she's actually alive, conscious, and communicating with us all the time. And so when I came to that place, when I found that place and had that started to open, like you said, you know, opening up to that new way of being in the world, my whole life changed from that point forward.
Bruce Lipton wrote a book called The Biology of Belief. And he says it's not our heredity, it's not our environment, but it's our beliefs that create our destiny. And he was a scientist, and he would do studies, and he would put two plants in different parts of the room, and he would talk very nicely to one plant, and he would talk very harshly to another plant. And the plant who he spoke very nice and highly of blossomed and grew bigger. And the plant that he spoke harshly to withered away. So that just speaks to, and he has thousands of experiments where he talks about this this phenomenon, and that he explains that we're all photons floating in an electromechanical field. And when you're not in balance with yourself, when you feel that you're not on the right path, you need to act on that because you're not in balance. And the problem with most people have is they don't act on their feelings, or they destructively act on their feelings, or they have the idea that, well, this is all that life has for me. I guess I'm going to have to suck it up and to deal with it. And they just live a life that they haven't reached their full potential. So explain to our listeners how you help people. What kind of services do you offer? And hopefully you can give me some examples of how you help people, because I guess that's really what we're here talking about. How can Alison Normore, what is the special work that she does that can help people like achieve that balance in their life?
Well, there's I have multiple tools from my background as a therapist and as a child development specialist and play therapist, and also as a shamanic energy medicine practitioner. So I bring all those tools, also my extensive experience with dream interpretations, like the nighttime kind of dreams.
Yeah.
So what my role is to help people reconnect with their own wisdom and their own power so they can blossom, like you said. So that potential that's been hidden or they haven't believed in can actually come forth and show itself. So I use whatever tools people are, whatever will fit in that for that particular situation, to help people get just more connected to their own inner wisdom, and also that support, that those deeper connections as well to spirit, to the natural world, to whatever. It doesn't matter what you believe, but to begin to trust and see for themselves what actually that greater field of intelligence that is there, always reaching out and there to support us so we can prosper and thrive. And so I do that in a variety of ways. I do offer one-on-one work, and I also teach online. Mostly online for the last couple of years. So offer workshops, and I've done a lot of weekend retreats, and people can come and we can, practice. The shamanic path is a very experiential path. So it's all about your direct experience. It's not just about getting information. It's about actually having an experience that is life-changing for you. So I love doing that. I love facilitating those kinds of experiences for people. I also do moon circles. So people just want to dip their toe in, get a sense of me and my work, and become part of a community, which so many of us are longing for now. That was one of my biggest things, was how I just felt so disconnected and isolated, and like, where are my people? Like, where is my tribe? So I do twice monthly on full and new moons, and on special times like equinoxes and solstices, I will offer online circles that people can join, and they're free. So I do a lot of things for free as well.
Can you give us an example of a problem someone may have? Because I'm sure there could be somebody listening now to say, I have that problem, I need to talk to Alison. Can you maybe give us a couple of examples of someone came to you with this, and this is what you used, and this was the result?
Yeah, well, I can give some just from this past couple of weeks. One woman contacted me. She just was feeling kind of stuck. She had this, which many of us do, and I was there, of knowing there's something else that I came to do. Just like, I've done this, I've done that, I've maybe had many accomplishments, but yet knowing there's something else, that there's, just that niggling thing, like I haven't found it yet. And so we've been working together. We've been doing a number of sessions together where we're going back and clearing actually what's coming up are some past lives where for one particular past life had to do with having her life cut short very young, and the life, being very, very happy. It turned out that she didn't have closure in that life, that there was a part of her that was still stuck and hiding because it, couldn't complete that life. And so we were able to do that work together. I could facilitate that conversation, with her soul, and to call back that part. Now, in shamanic terms, that's called soul retrieval, and in psychological terms, it might be called, not so much, but like split, your parts of your soul in the shamanic vernacular would be talking about how parts of you get split off. So you're not actually, there are parts of you that are, we might say, in the unconscious, in the underworld, that we have to retrieve and bring back. And already she's reported having shifts, like she's just feeling so much freer, and she's dreaming again. She hadn't been dreaming, so the effects of that can be quite profound.
Yeah. So just so our listeners understand, past life regression or timeline therapy is based on the fact that you have had a past life and that you're born again. And some people say that, if you have deja vu, that's kind of an indication that you've had a past life. So let's say, for instance, you're afraid of water. You don't know why you're afraid of water, but you're scared of water. Something happened because you weren't born with a fear of water. You were born with, like I said, two fears. So something happened in your past. It could have been when you were young, when you walked close to water and your mother or somebody said, don't you dare come back. That water is dangerous. Don't you ever go near that water again. So what happens is your subconscious mind, because it's your best friend who wants to help you, it puts in place, okay, if the water is bad, if it's dangerous, then I'll make sure that Alison has a fear of water, so that won't be a problem anymore. In a past life, maybe you drown in a past life. And this is your spirit telling you that, you got to be really careful around water because it didn't work out well for you the last time. So that's really when Alison is talking about past life regression. That's what we want to do, is we want to start uncovering those blockages that people have that prevents them from living a full life.
Yes. And my teacher used to say, you don't have to believe. I happen to believe in past lives, and there's a lot of research out there that confirms that we do actually have multiple, incarnations. That you can also just see it as stories that live within you. Right? If that's a bit too much of a stretch and you're not sure how you feel about it, you don't have to. But there's stories that have energy and that they have impact, as you say, either consciously or unconsciously, that are keeping you from moving forward or, living your biggest life and being expressing all you could express.
One of the things, two things actually. Number one, most of the people that I see, I use hypnotherapy, and I wouldn't say everybody, but I'd say 95% of the people who I see have low self-esteem. And it's because of things that have happened in the past. It's because of, it could have been it could have been a parent who said something, that you dropped a glass and, oh, Sally, you're stupid. Now Sally thinks she's stupid. And then she carries that with her for the rest of her life. No parent gets up in the morning and says, today I think is the day I'm going to ruin my kids' lives. Right. But we say things well-intentioned, but we don't realize the impact that we can have on people. So that's, if you, for our listeners, if you just took a moment and just stripped everything away, all your beliefs, all your belongings, everything that you work for, and it was just you there with your thoughts. Who are you? That's what you need to get in touch with. It's not who people who think you are. It's not how you want people to think who you are. It's who your true self is. Because the biggest burdens that we carry in our lives are the thoughts that we have in our heads. And usually they're negative thoughts. So if you strip all that away and just really get in touch with who are you as a person, what are you that makes you a unique person, and then just to build from there. Alison, we're almost out of time. I want you to take a few minutes and give our listeners something that they can use today to give themselves maybe a little more balance, a little less anxiety, a little less stress, some coping mechanisms or some ideas or strategies that they could use right now to help themselves?
Okay. Well, first, I'd want to say to anyone who's listening that what I want you to know is that everything in your life, every experience, big or small, that you've had, has conspired to bring you exactly where you are today and where you need to be. So I would like to say there have been no accidents. There are no bad choices, even though you might think, oh, that wasn't, if I could do that over again, I'd do something different. But just for a moment, to just entertain the possibility that everything that's happened has been for a reason and has some purpose, that it's been preparing you to be right here, right now, in this moment, and maybe listening to this interview, that you have already so much support that you can't even imagine. You might, think, oh, well, yeah, I've sometimes thought I've had a guardian angel or, somebody looking out for me because of something that happened. But what if you are loved and supported beyond your wildest dreams? And all that love and support is just waiting for you to recognize it and to begin to interact with it, to communicate with it, to have a conversation with it. And so, I would say, just what I did when things started to happen, these strange synchronicities, it was part of my spiritual awakening. I was pretty asleep about it all. And I would say, okay, all right. So I think that, that I'm just noticing like that's a little bit of a coincidence, that this person, mentioned this book or said this thing to me. And I was just thinking about that just last night. And now somebody is telling me like this thing that is like, just, to go read this book. And then, so I'd say, okay, so if I really need to do that, or if I really need to know something, this would be my conversation I'd be having with the invisible. I'd say, you need to bring it to me 3 times, because the first time I'll go, oh, that's interesting. The second time I'll go, now that's a coincidence. The third time will be my sign that, yes, this is from, I don't understand what it is and what this bigger thing is, but somebody is watching out for me and they have a message for me, and I will really pay attention. So, if I'd say ask, begin to, just open to the possibility that no matter what's going on in your life, no matter how terrible or hopeless it seems, that there is a reason why you're here. Maybe because you needed to be ready to hear this message and to open up to something bigger is got your back. Something bigger is happening that you could not even have imagined.
So go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So just to take notice, to pay more attention to what's happening, both within you, within your dreams, within your thoughts, as you said, that little intuition, that little voice, because often it's a very little quiet voice. If something is yelling at you through your head, know that that's not your intuition. That's not your deeper wisdom, right? That's some other thing you've picked up. That's some other person's voice. You got to listen. So really taking time, slowing down, beginning to listen and pay attention.
And I guess to finish off with those incredible, wonderful points, that support that you're looking for starts from within.
Yes.
It's there, right there, waiting for you to take hold of it and run with it. And the other point that you made, which was really good, about choices, and no one makes a second best choice. You have a choice. You have choice A, you have choice B. You always make the best decision available to you. doesn't mean that it's going to work out for you. It just means the one that is available to you. And then you say, well, you know, you beat yourself up because, oh, I wish I had made this different decision. If I had made a different decision, my life would have turned out differently. Well, if you had that information back then, don't you think you would have made the other choice? Nobody says, well, I have choice A, I have choice B. I know choice A is the best one to take, but you know something? I'm going to take choice B just for the hell of it and see what happens. Nobody does that. So regrets are something we need to forget about. We need to stop beating ourselves up over decisions that we think are the wrong decisions, but they're not the wrong decisions. They're the right decisions based on the information you had. It just means it didn't work out for you. So the next time you're faced with something similar, you just think about it differently. That's it. That's it. There are no mistakes. Absolutely no mistakes. Alison, thank you very much. It's been eye-opening for me. I just get to get this wonderful free therapy all the time. I meet these incredible people who've got so much wonderful wisdom and so many gifts to offer. And I hope that there's somebody or a whole load of people who are going to listen to this interview and go, I need to speak to Alison Normore, because I think she holds the answer. She can guide me. She's my guide now. She's going to guide me to my internal wisdom and allow me to become the best version of myself. Thank you very much for taking the time. I really, really appreciate it, Alison.
You're so welcome, Gary. Have a beautiful day.